Welcome back to Ripple Insider, everyone. Today we have one of the most important XRP updates we've seen in weeks, because XRP just made a powerful move that caught the attention of the entire crypto market. The price suddenly exploded above the $1.54 level, climbing more than 7% in a very short amount of time before pulling back near the $1.48 range. Now, even though some traders are calling this a temporary pump, many analysts believe this move could actually be the beginning of something much bigger for XRP holders. What makes this situation even more interesting is that this rally did not happen randomly. There are two major forces driving attention toward XRP right now, and both of them could shape the future of the token for the rest of 2026. One is the massive whale accumulation data coming directly from Santiment, and the second is the huge political development surrounding the Clarity Act in the United States Senate. These two stories together are creating serious excitement in the XRP community because they suggest that institutional confidence may still be growing quietly behind the scenes, while retail investors remain uncertain about what comes next. When we look at the whale activity first, the numbers honestly tell a shocking story. According to the latest Santiment report, wallets holding at least 10 million XRP now control a combined 45.83 billion tokens. That is the highest amount recorded since May of 2018, and for longtime XRP supporters, that statistic alone says a lot. Think about what this means for a moment. These massive wallets are not controlled by small retail traders making emotional decisions every day. These are the kinds of wallets usually connected to institutions, high net worth investors, early adopters, or entities with deep knowledge of the market. The report also revealed that these mega whales now control 68.5% of XRP's circulating supply. That is an enormous percentage, and it suggests that large investors continue accumulating XRP despite the price still being far below what many supporters believe its true long-term value could eventually become. Usually when whales accumulate aggressively during uncertainty, it signals confidence that bigger developments are approaching in the future. The historical data shown in the Santiment chart makes this trend even more fascinating. Back in 2021, the amount of XRP held by these giant wallets was closer to 38 billion tokens. Since then, the holdings have steadily climbed higher year after year until reaching today's record levels. During that same period, the percentage of XRP supply controlled by whales jumped from around 60% to nearly 69%. That steady accumulation happened through both bullish periods and painful corrections, which tells us something extremely important. These investors were not panic selling during volatility. Instead, they were quietly increasing positions while the broader market focused on short-term price action. We also saw XRP reach highs near $1.90 in 2025 before crashing down toward $1.10 earlier this year. Yet even during those difficult moments, whale accumulation continued rising. That is exactly why many analysts are paying close attention now. Smart money behavior often becomes visible long before major price expansions happen in the crypto market. Now let's move into the political side of this story, because this may actually be the biggest catalyst for XRP at the moment. The Clarity Act officially cleared the U.S. Senate Banking Committee, and that is a major step forward in the regulatory process. For years, one of the biggest issues surrounding XRP has been uncertainty about how regulators classify the asset. That uncertainty created fear among investors, exchanges, and institutions. But now things may finally be moving toward a more stable framework. The bill still has additional steps before becoming law, but simply advancing through the Senate Banking Committee already represents huge progress. Many investors believe that if regulatory clarity finally arrives, it could completely transform the long-term outlook for XRP and possibly remove one of the largest risks that has been hanging over the token for years. Here's what happens next with the Clarity Act, because many people are confused about the process. After clearing the Senate Banking Committee, the bill now moves deeper into the Senate legislative system. Additional committee reviews may still happen before the bill reaches the full Senate floor for a broader vote. Once it reaches that stage, lawmakers from both parties will need to support the legislation for it to pass successfully. But even after Senate approval, the process would still not be completely finished. If the Senate version differs from the House version, lawmakers from both chambers would need to reconcile the differences and agree on one final version. Only after both chambers approve the same exact text can the bill move to the president for final signature into law. So yes, there are still hurdles ahead, but this advancement alone already signals that crypto regulation is becoming a serious national discussion inside Washington. For the XRP community specifically, this matters more than almost anything else happening right now. Regulatory clarity could permanently reduce the fear that XRP might someday face security classification problems again. That is why so many whales appear comfortable accumulating despite price weakness. Large investors often focus less on temporary volatility and more on long-term legal certainty. If the regulatory cloud surrounding XRP continues clearing, institutions that previously stayed away may finally feel safer entering the market. And remember, institutional participation is one of the biggest drivers that can completely change an asset's market structure. Retail traders alone rarely create sustainable trillion-dollar markets. Institutional confidence is what transforms assets into global financial instruments. And many XRP supporters believe that is exactly the direction this project has been trying to move toward for years. At the same time, we are also seeing growing interest from AI-driven crypto portfolio strategies. One related report gaining attention today mentioned that certain AI investment agents are now including XRP alongside tokens like Chainlink in portfolios designed around regulatory clarity and utility-focused crypto assets. That may sound like a small detail, but it actually reflects a broader trend happening in the digital asset space. More investors are moving away from hype-based meme speculation and looking toward projects connected to real-world financial infrastructure, payments, interoperability, and compliance. XRP continues appearing in those conversations because of its long-standing focus on cross-border payments and institutional partnerships. Whether someone personally believes XRP will dominate global finance or not, there is no denying that the token remains deeply connected to discussions about the future integration of blockchain technology within traditional financial systems. Now, despite all this bullish news, the technical picture for XRP still remains complicated. A crypto analyst known as Crypto with Gopal recently shared a daily XRP chart showing a bearish pennant pattern that formed between February and May of 2026. For viewers unfamiliar with technical analysis, a bearish pennant usually forms after a strong downward move, followed by consolidation inside narrowing trend lines. Eventually, the pattern often breaks lower if bearish momentum continues. According to the chart, XRP recently broke below that pennant structure, which many technical traders interpret as a warning sign for the short-term market outlook. That is why, even after today's impressive rally, some traders remain cautious instead of immediately turning aggressively bullish. Right now, XRP is trading around the $1.48 area, which places it below the pennant's lower trend line and also below important moving averages that traders monitor closely. The 50-day moving average currently sits around $1.55, while the 200-day moving average remains higher near $1.70. These levels matter because they often act as resistance during recovery attempts. If XRP cannot reclaim those areas with strong momentum and heavy trading volume, bearish pressure may continue dominating the market. Technical traders especially want to see a convincing breakout above the $1.55 to $1.60 region before they start talking about stronger bullish continuation toward higher targets again. Another detail that traders are watching carefully is trading volume. During the pennant formation, XRP volume steadily declined, which is actually common during consolidation phases. But now the market needs to see increasing volume return if bulls want to confirm real strength behind the recent price movement. Temporary spikes without sustained volume often fail quickly in crypto markets because there is not enough conviction supporting the breakout. That is why some analysts are warning traders not to become overly emotional after a single strong day. Markets can reverse very fast, especially in highly volatile assets like XRP. The next several trading sessions could become extremely important because they may determine whether this rally develops into a larger trend reversal or simply becomes another short-lived bounce before additional downside pressure appears again. On the downside, traders are paying close attention to the $1.38 support level. Analysts say losing that area could trigger another wave of selling pressure in the short term. Support levels matter psychologically because they represent zones where buyers previously stepped in aggressively. If support fails, fear usually spreads quickly across the market. Some short-term traders may exit positions, while bearish traders attempt to push prices lower. That is why the next battle between bulls and bears around these levels could become extremely important for XRP's short-term direction. Right now, the market basically looks trapped between improving long-term fundamentals and uncertain short-term technical weakness. What makes this situation especially interesting is the contrast between whale behavior and retail sentiment. Retail investors often become emotional during pullbacks and corrections, especially after years of volatility. But whales appear to be doing the opposite right now. Instead of reducing exposure, they continue holding record amounts of XRP. That disconnect between smart money accumulation and public uncertainty is one reason why many experienced crypto analysts believe something bigger may eventually happen once regulatory conditions improve further. Historically, some of the largest crypto rallies began during periods when public sentiment was still skeptical and fearful. Markets tend to surprise people when expectations become too one-sided. Another factor helping XRP maintain relevance is the broader conversation surrounding crypto regulation in the United States. Washington's approach toward digital assets has become one of the most important topics affecting the entire crypto market in 2026. Investors understand that regulation can either unlock massive institutional adoption or create additional barriers depending on how lawmakers handle these frameworks. Because XRP has spent years dealing with legal and regulatory scrutiny, many supporters believe the project could actually benefit if clearer rules finally emerge. Some investors even argue that XRP may become one of the biggest winners in a regulated crypto environment precisely because it has already been forced to navigate these challenges publicly for so long. At the same time, critics still remain cautious about XRP's long-term upside potential. Some traders argue that despite years of partnerships and legal developments, XRP has struggled to consistently maintain strong price momentum compared to other major cryptocurrencies during previous bull cycles. Skeptics believe whale concentration itself could become a risk if a small number of holders control too much supply. Others worry that technical weakness may continue limiting upside unless broader crypto market conditions improve significantly. So while optimism is definitely growing again, this remains a highly debated asset inside the crypto industry, and opinions remain sharply divided between bullish supporters and cautious critics. Still, one thing is very clear from today's developments. XRP is no longer sitting quietly in the background of the crypto conversation. Whale accumulation is reaching levels not seen in 8 years. Regulatory progress is advancing further inside the United States government. Institutional discussions continue growing around utility-focused digital assets. And even though technical charts still show caution signs, the market is starting to pay attention again. Whether this becomes the foundation for a major breakout later in 2026 or simply another volatile chapter in XRP's long history remains to be seen. But the level of activity happening right now cannot be ignored anymore. For traders watching closely, the next key zones remain obvious. Bulls need to reclaim the $1.55 to $1.60 resistance area with strong volume if they want momentum to shift decisively bullish again. Bears, meanwhile, will continue targeting weakness below $1.38 in hopes of triggering additional downside pressure. Between those levels, volatility could stay intense as traders react to every regulatory headline, whale movement, and broader crypto market trend. One thing about XRP is that it rarely stays quiet for long, and today's explosive move proves that the token still has the power to capture massive attention across the market when momentum suddenly returns. So overall, today's XRP story is really about two competing forces fighting for control. On one side, you have growing whale confidence, regulatory progress, and renewed institutional interest creating long-term optimism. On the other side, you still have bearish technical patterns, resistance pressure, and cautious traders warning about possible downside risks. The battle between those forces will likely determine where XRP heads next in the coming weeks and months. But regardless of which side wins in the short term, there is no doubt that XRP is once again becoming one of the most talked about assets in crypto. And as always, here on XRP Insider, we will continue tracking every major move, every breaking development, and every signal that could impact the future of XRP and the entire crypto market.